Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to another Elevate interview. I'm here with my man, El Jefe, Jeff, freaking legend. We just came off of hiking 40 miles on the Appalachian Trail, and Jeff's going to dive into his experience of Elevate, his experience of the Appalachian Trail trip, grinding through 40 miles, climbing multiple mountains, experiencing some hard lessons. It was a war we were going to out there. No water for a long part of it on day one. So I'm excited to share his perspective and his experience of this trip. But Jeff, what is up, man?
What's up?
Dude, first question I want to ask before we really get into the AT stuff. I know that's kind of going to be the highlight of this because man, that trip was just awesome. But
Yeah.
I want to just first ask, like, what made you join Elevate? I don't think we've ever talked about this.
So I mean, like, obviously I was kind of just, before this, I was kind of just floating through life, It's kind of in a weird place where I was coming off some things and I really hadn't found that direction yet for where I wanted to go next. And I think it was you had reached out to me previously, and then I actually did end up joining, but I had like a weird name on the Discord, so nobody knew I was there.
Yeah.
We finally got that worked out and and we were good. But there was that period of, is he there? Is he not there?
Yeah, I remember that period. For those that are kind of wondering, like you join our community, it's on Discord, and you can kind of, make your name, make your profile, whatever. And Jeff went with an anonymous name. I don't know if it's something you had from the past or something you chose in the moment, but for so long, Peyton and I, we were like, man, who is this? Like, who is this? Like, we don't know who this guy is. Like, where did he come from? What's his actual name? So it was just funny, just how you kind of floated anonymously for those first few months. I know you were just kind of lurking in the background, but talk to me about going from lurking in the background of, is he there, to getting involved, because, we have a plethora of calls every single week, from Bible studies to nutrition to finance to addiction, like so many calls for members to attend and to get value. And like I said before we started this interview, like, I think since you've joined, well, after you started getting active, I think you have the most calls attended. So appreciate you just buying in and showing up to the calls. But talk to me about kind of the difference in your life once you started engaging, once you started showing up to calls, once you started jumping on Bible studies, once you started dropping messages in. Like, how did things change?
Yeah, I mean, obviously just being in the community and being around it is one thing. Like, you can take value from, just about anybody in there, but you really don't start to understand how much you're getting out of it till you start getting involved and you start having conversations with these guys. Like, obviously I'd had a call with you previously when I first got started in Payton, but I hadn't really reached out to much of anybody else, and that was something I had been wanting to do. But then, we got to the trip, and I really got to connect with those guys on another level and really got to kind of see behind the screen, so to speak, and you realize just how real everybody actually is. Because it's one thing to say, oh, I'm in this community with these guys and, it's whatever. But when you actually, like, see it and you see the congruency there, like, it's not a smoke screen. This is who you are. And it just, obviously I had been getting involved with, like you said, the Bible studies and whatnot. And you kind of see guys open up there. But then just meeting in person, it's like a whole other level entirely.
Absolutely. And I can definitely attest to that, having, I think, hosted 6 events now, all over the US, and having guys fly in from all over the world, essentially. And yeah, in person is truly the next level. It's a connection that I think you realize when you take it back into the online as well, like, it makes the online that much better. It's like, I've hugged that guy. Like, I've been to war with that guy in our case. So, but before we get into those wars, let's keep walking about the Elevate path for just a minute or two here. But I'm definitely eager to jump into this Appalachian Trail, man. Whew. But so in the name of Elevate, like I said, we do have all these calls, you know, from finance to Bible studies, etc. Like, what do you feel? What aspect of Elevate do you feel has been like the most impactful on your life?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, I got started in the Bible studies like from the beginning, and that was something you kind of pushed me on, was just get more involved. And I mean, just getting, like I say, getting into the Word with these guys and kind of seeing their heart, it really kind of, you get to know them quite a bit. But then you started adding in the other things, you know, obviously the AT calls and then the finance calls and different things. And, you know, you're kind of getting to know guys through their different areas of expertise, and you're also learning from them at the same time. And it's, you know, it really kind of, there again, takes it to another level, because like they could be charging us who knows how much for this information, but they're willing to give it to us for free because we are a part of this community, you know, and that really says a lot about their principles. But then just like how much y'all care as a community, that you want to see guys get better, you know. And I've really taken a lot from the different things.
Honestly, man, like warms my heart that you would say that. Like that means a ton to me. And yeah, dude, like I see that as well. You know, we have my brother in a financial planner, owns his own firm, you know, assets, manages millions in assets, like, and he's willing to jump on for an hour every single month and just answer live financial questions. Like, just getting free access to a financial planner, like, that's just wild. It's unheard of. Like, it's absolutely unheard of. But his heart, man, he just has the heart of gold, heart to serve. So I appreciate you mentioning that, because that goes a long way for me. Each guy who delivers those calls, you know, Matt Call with addiction, like Nick Marsh with the nutrition, like those guys have been, you know, day one guys for me. And so they're just brothers to me. And that means a ton, just hearing those kind words about them. But in the name of Bible studies, like how what's your experience been there? Like, I know a lot of people, you know, with a Bible study, you know, maybe they're listening to this and never been a part of a Bible study, or they've never really read the Bible much. Maybe that's where they're at. Like, what kind of space is that like? What's the dynamic of the Bible study like? Like, how does that kind of roll? And what's your experience been in there?
Yeah, I mean, as I said, that was kind of one of the first things you encouraged me to do, was to get into one of those. And immediately I could see why, because it's just, you know, it's very laid back. I mean, there is a structure to it, but, you know, the opening for discussion there, and like, it's not just, this is how it is. It's different guys, you know, seeing it different ways. And, you know, you get a lot of different perspectives, and it's really kind of, especially because we've been getting into some different books that maybe a lot of guys don't have much experience with. And it's really interesting not only to see different parts of the Bible, but also, you know, hear how guys interpret different things differently. And really opens up a lot of new insights for me. It's like, I've always heard, oh, this is what this is, but it could mean different things to different guys.
Yeah. And I think, like, just having those, again, like-minded dudes, like, it's not just any 10 guys giving you their experience. Like, it's 10 guys you respect, 10 guys you share the same values of, 10 guys who are, you know, leveling up in life, growing in their faith, like getting into the Word daily. And that's what I respect the most about these guys in these Bible studies, is like, I know guys like Austin, guys like Peyton, guys like yourself, like, we are working every single day to grow closer to God. So when I get on a Bible study and I get the opportunity to be refined by you guys and get, you know, 10 different perspectives, like, I'm soaking them all in. Like, it's powerful. It truly is. It's similar to what you're saying about the finance calls being free. Like, the fact that we can get on there and talk to, and we have Bible studies, 10, 15, 20 guys, like the fact that we can get on there and hear all these different unique perspectives of men that we trust and respect that are in the Word consistently, like, and have a living relationship with God, like, man, like, it's invaluable to me. I know it's expedited my growth in faith. And that's kind of my next question to you is just like, what kind of was your faith looking like before you joined? And then after you joined, obviously getting involved in these Bible studies, things like that, like how has your faith grown?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I've been in church my whole life. And, I've always kind of been around that environment, but there's been periods of my life where I just sort of was going through the motions. Like I was just trying to check a box, and then like getting involved with this community and getting into the Bible studies, it gave me a new hunger to want to, get into the Word and really kind of take a second look at different things. And, it really kind of got me back on fire, if I'm being honest. Like,
man,
yeah. It makes me hungry to get into the Word and to learn more and to try to, I mean, obviously, if you're getting into it and you're really serious about it, it's going to change the way you think. It's going to change the way you're living. It can only make you better, really.
I agree. And I think, one thing we always say, obviously I got a tattoo on my arm, is just God is working. Like,
yeah.
And I think like what you're saying, like changing the way you live, providing you that hunger, that fire. Like I think when I started joining these Bible studies, because these Bible studies, we started them January 2023, just about, 6, 7, 8 months ago. And man, they expedited my faith. Like I don't think many know kind of my faith before was, I don't want to say non-existent by any stretch, but it was definitely probably half in, half out. I was playing the fence. It was convenient for me. And then January, we start these Bible studies, and I started seeing, in these Bible studies, I started seeing how God was working in other guys' lives. Like they're sharing about their prayer time. They're sharing about, their blessings. They're sharing about their gratitude. Like, and when you get around, a community of, over 100 guys that's sharing how God is working in their life, like, man, it's like inevitable that you're going to catch a hunger and a thirst for that. Like you want God to be working in your life. And I love what you're saying. Like it will change how you're living. And so I know you've made some changes in how you're living. Like we've talked about it right before we jumped on here, of just your pursuit of, not wanting to live with an unhealthy body and doing something about it. Your pursuit of getting into the Word more. Like, talk to me about kind of those actions. What did your actions look like before joining, and then now, like, what's your intentions when you show up and you're taking action? What are you working on right now? What are you working towards?
Yeah, so obviously, I won't say I had never been in the gym, but like there was a period where I was really getting after it, and I was really like, I'm going to do this. And then some different things happened, and life kind of happened, and it took me off of that path. But then getting around, like you say, getting around these guys who are like in it every day, I was like, I don't know if it was, I got to get where these guys are at, but it definitely was like, I can't, for myself, sit here and watch these guys just getting absolutely jacked and not want to get in on that.
Yeah. That's so funny. We just got that, that training section that I feel like is always popping off. Like, I know for me, like, I lack accountability and I lack motivation and consistency, just like everyone else. But man, all those things are provided through this community. When I get in that training section and I just see, Austin freaking prepping for a strongman competition, or Like just so many guys hitting the gym. You know, Billy, he's up like 4 a.m. in the gym. Like, I swear, before I even wake up, he's got a workout done, some breath work done. He's eating breakfast. He's read the Bible. Like, I'm like, man, that dude is just grinding. Like, just seeing guys live life at the highest level. That's what I believe. I believe it truly is the highest level. Like, you have no choice but to ascend when you're surrounded by them. And you know, we hear it all the time. Like, you are the 5 people you surround yourself with. Like, man, it is just so true. It's so true. And it can be done, you know, with this online community of guys who are just absolutely crushing. But I wanna stop teasing it anymore and just dive into this AT experience too, because I don't know about you, man, but I think this AT definitely was life-changing for me.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So talk to the people just about, you know, let's give a broad overview of, you know, what the trip was from your perspective. Let's give just kind of a big broad overview rundown, and then we'll dive specifically into certain things.
Yeah, so for me, like when you pitched me on this, I was like, again, it was like from the get-go, it was like one of the first things we talked about was like, okay, I'm putting together this crew and we're going to go through this course and we're going to get out and we're going to hike a freaking mountain. And I was like, I was all in, because I was like, at the time, and I told you this, I saw it for the trip because I knew it would be one of the hardest things I've ever done. But then as we started diving into the calls and, you know, there's some really hard-hitting stuff, like you really went all out on this course. And the more I dove into it and the more I started taking those actions, you know, thinking about the different things, the more I started understanding kind of maybe things that I had buried for a long time started coming to the surface. And it really gets you thinking about kind of where you're at, and it forces you to, you know, fight those battles and bring those things to the surface. And it really kind of, from a mental perspective, it is not easy, but it wasn't supposed to be easy. Like, but it did. I came away from it like every week, you know, you dive into that stuff, and if you allow it to, it slowly, it may not be noticeable, but it is kind of, you know, helping you build that foundation and kind of lay those bricks to, I don't want to say bury it, but you start to kind of rebuild yourself from the inside out, so to speak. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Doing that inner work, that deep work. And for everyone listening and kind of wondering, you know, this course that Jeff's talking about, it's our elevated identity course. You know, we run these every single quarter. We take a group of 10 guys through this course, and it's all just centered around rooting an identity in Christ and having the belief that you can live out that vision that he has for your life. Like that is the purpose of this course. And what was unique about this group is we went and hiked 40 miles of the Appalachian Trail on week 9 of the course, I believe. So that was just extremely unique because we were able to come together as 10 guys for, you know, 9 weeks, getting vulnerable, getting intimate, like you're saying, doing that deep inner work and understanding, you know, yourself, laying out your values, laying out your vision, like setting your foundation, learning about those past traumas and those past things that are kind of, you know, your limiting beliefs and holding you back. And then, so we get extremely vulnerable. We connect like crazy with this group, and then we go out into the mountains, and it's just time we dive into that, man. Like 40 miles over the course of 3 days. Day 1, walk us through your day 1 experience. I think we hiked a total of like 14 miles. Walk us through those 14 miles. What was your, you know, getting to the Airbnb Wednesday night? We're setting out Thursday morning. Like, what was your experience pulling up Wednesday night? Just walk us through that first day on Wednesday.
Yeah, so obviously, um, it was, I guess, compared to some other guys, I had an easy trip because it's like a 3 hour drive up there. But
Okay.
like, there was a lot of, for me anyway, at first it was like, okay, I'm gonna get there at this time. And then you were like, well, we're gonna be there super early. I was like, okay. So like, just getting there, and then, you know, you and Ethan obviously had gotten there first, and I roll up to the house and I'm like, I really don't know what I was expecting to see, like a welcoming committee or what, but I roll up to the house and I'm like, I didn't see anybody. I'm like, am I in the right place? I want to say I messaged you from the driveway. It was like, yo, am I in the right place? But then just, getting there and kind of seeing it. I mean, even just being around y'all, obviously, but just rolling up there, it was partly like, okay, we're here. Like, this is the beginning of this. But then, like, just like, it wasn't the getting there that was the difficult part. Like, I always knew I was going to do this and I was fully committed. But then just kind of as we got into it, because the day one was the easy part. I feel like,
That Wednesday?
yeah, the getting there was the easy part, and obviously, once everybody got there, we started. Really, that's what it was for me, was some of those conversations, those deep conversations, like from day one.
Mm.
Like, yeah, we were chilling and we were having a good time, but like, I got into it. I got into a conversation with JR like right out of the gate, and we already kind of was talking about kind of where I was at, and where I was wanting to go, and kind of it got pretty deep pretty fast, really, is what I'm getting at. And just, I knew getting around these guys, it was going to get me thinking, but I don't know that I expected it to happen that fast, because I don't usually connect with people that fast, because I guess I'm so used to, in the past, like when I was growing up, we moved around a lot, so I just didn't get close to people. And so I think it was shocking even to me that I was able to open up to guys that fast. And it may just be, because we've had these calls every week, and, I knew that they were going to support me, but then also, those old feelings kind of came to the surface. But, once I got into those conversations, it was like, it kind of eased my mind, because I'm like, these guys, they're just like me. We walk different paths in life, obviously, but they're just working hard. They're getting after it. And, especially as we set out on day one, you realize, like, we were all fighting different battles. There was nobody that came into this and was like, oh yeah, this is easy.
Nobody. And kind of just to paint the picture of day one for the people. One, I did write a thread, an entire thread. So if you're listening to this and you're curious about, the experience, I wrote a 20 tweet thread with videos and pictures, and like, you'll get the entire picture of this trip painted for you if you want to go check that out. So day one is Wednesday. Everybody we rented an Airbnb. everybody flew in, drove in, and we all met up. And like Jeff saying, like we hit it off right away. And this always happens at Elevate events. Like when you come in person, you connect, like you will hit it off right away. And I think it's a testament to, one, just our intentions. Like we are there to grow. We are there to connect with each other. We are there to grow closer to God. There's without a doubt, like that is without a doubt. And when you get into a setting and I know your intentions like through and through, and I've gone through 9 weeks of a course with you, like, man, we've gotten vulnerable. I know where you're trying to go in life. And it's like, those are the conversations I'm trying to have, you know. No more of these conversations about, you know, we didn't have one conversation about what was happening on the news, one conversation about what was happening in some sort of pro sports league or anything like that. Like absolutely zero surface level conversations throughout, you know, this 5-day experience out on the Appalachian Trail. So it's just it's a depth that most people have never experienced in their life, and I'm just so grateful that we have over 100 guys who are vulnerable and willing to go to that depth. And I'm glad that you experienced that right off the gate with no guy better than my man JR, absolute legend. But so Wednesday, you know, we all gather, Jeff and I and Ethan, we go to the grocery store and we load up on some snacks, you know, some dried fruits, some nuts, some things of that nature. And then we go out to this local diner. We were in this, we're in Roanoke, I don't know if that was Roanoke specifically, but extremely small town wherever we were in, and it was tiny. In this local diner, definitely some old time vibes. It was a great time, great energy. They you know, were asking us who we were and what we were about, and we got to share our mission with them, and they loved that, and they wish us the best on the trail. So that Wednesday was just an opportunity to, you know, collect our gear. Paid and rented all this gear from REI, and he pulls up, and you know, we got to. You don't realize how much gear you're going to need, you know, to go out in the woods for 3 days with nothing that's on your back, nothing but what's on your back. Like, I didn't realize that. I pulled up with there's a standard backpack, and I was like, oh, I think I'll be good with this. You know, maybe I'll use this hiking bag. Oh my God, I can't imagine if I wouldn't have used the hiking backpack. Like, just even the support around the waist, like all these different things. Like, it was crazy to see just how awesome it was to have all that equipment and have all those accessories and all those things like that, you know, jet boils and these MREs and things, which we're about to definitely get into. So that was Wednesday, you know, gathering, getting supplies, you know, breaking the ice with each other in person, if we were meeting for the first time. And then Thursday we set out 14 miles, and just kind of, what was your, you know, kind of energy and thoughts going on? You know, Thursday morning when we wake up, we know we got 14 miles of North Mountain ahead of us. Like, what are you thinking when we're getting out to the trail?
Yeah, so obviously, like you were saying, like y'all sent out a list beforehand of this is what you need to bring with you. So I had just a regular sized bag, and I was like, okay, I think I've got everything in there. And then we switched out, and like, I'm glad we did, because number one, there was a lot of stuff that was not going to fit in my bag, but also like there again, obviously I didn't know what to expect, but I'm glad we had all that extra stuff. But yeah, just setting out on day one, so obviously it was like a 15-20 minute drive to where we actually started. And the whole time I'm just thinking, okay, I was trying to hype myself up, I think, in the car. It was like, okay, you're in this now. Like, you can do this. And then we set out on the trail, and it's like, was it like the first 2 miles were straight uphill, basically? And I was like, okay, like, we're in it now. And then, like, as we got deeper in, you know, obviously you had touched on the water situation at the beginning. And I mean, that in itself was a whole ordeal. But like, I was like, oh crap, what am I doing out here? It's like,
I have a taste of that.
Yeah, I knew I wanted to be there. I knew why I was there. But in that moment, that was the first moment where I was like, oh shit. But yeah, so obviously my day one, I mean, I was trying to keep up with guys, but at the same time, I was like, I was in it. I was in the battle. And a lot of it for me was mental, just because, you know, like I say, until this course, I had kind of just buried a lot of that stuff. And, you know, I never really dealt with things. And as we were, hiking straight uphill, and as we were, I mean, the trail in itself was, I mean, it was rocky and there was tree roots, and it was not an easy trail by any stretch. And, at the time, I was thinking, oh my gosh, this is how far we got to go. I wasn't thinking about what was right in front of me. And so a lot of it, I feel like, it was me fighting against myself. But I think a lot of it was, until I was focused on what was right in front of me rather than focusing on the internal stuff. And like, it became a spiritual battle for me very quickly. A lot of those limiting beliefs started popping up as like, what are you doing out here? You're not going to make it. Like, even I was thinking that, like, in the beginning was like, what do you think you're doing out here? And, I had some guys kind of get with me and was like, they talked me through some of that stuff. And, as they started conversing with me and like, why are you here? What do you want? It wasn't even like about where we were at itself. It was almost like a distraction. Like, oh, what about this over here? Like, basically, where do you see yourself going? And as I started thinking about that, I started thinking more and more, this is why I'm here. I'm here for my future self and my future family or whatever. And it became, once I made it bigger than me, and I got in tune with, who I am in Christ, and I really started taking that to heart. I mean, obviously physically it was still challenging, but the mental game became a lot easier. And obviously that first day we were in it. But, the more I started thinking about it from the mental aspect, like, by the time we got where we were going that first night, I think I was still struggling to some extent, but my objective became a lot clearer. And like, I think my why, even, I got some clarification on that, is like, this is not about you. This is bigger than you. And that really helped a lot.
All of that. I think, so many people who struggle with that accountability, and they're lacking that motivation. Like, no one wants to take these actions every single day. Every single day, I do not want to wake up and read my Bible, work out, like, eat healthy. Like, no, I would love to eat some shitty meals. I would love to, skip the gym at times. Like, no one wants to do these things every single day. The discipline, the consistency is it's simple, but it's not easy. It's simple, but it's not easy. And I love what you're saying about just realizing, hey, like, my actions are so much bigger than me. Like, I have a God to serve. I have a community to serve. I have a future family to serve. I have a current family to serve. Like, the better I am, the better these people are. And so if anyone listening to this, like, if you were like Jeff and you may be struggling with these things in the past, these actions in the past, like, maybe it's time to hit the journal prompt and understand, like, this isn't bigger than me. And then journal about who is it? Who is this for? Who are my actions for? What is my why? Like, getting down to that, like Jeff said, that he found, and really solidified out on this trip. That's extremely powerful, brother. And And I think it just allows you to just realize like, oh, me skipping the gym, like that's so selfish. It's so selfish. And we see like, you know, I know my good friend Gabe, like his dad has just battled health, and it's definitely hurt their family quite a bit. Happy to say, you know, they've done a lot of mending of those relationships, but like the man of the house, the leader of the house, like if you don't have your health, you have nothing. Like you have absolutely nothing. It's not fair to your kids, to your potentially grandkids, if you were to go early or not be able to walk your daughter down the aisle, or, you know, whatever that looks like in your any specific given situation. So I don't know, I just got super passionate when you were sharing that, because I was like, man, like this is so true. Like it's so much bigger than us, and we have to stop making decisions based on us and how we feel. Your feelings are never going to be there. Your emotions, I don't want to say never, but, you know, majority of the time they're not going to be there. And then what you start to see is as you continue to show up, the motivation starts coming more. The emotions to go do those things starts coming more, because then you have the evidence and the, you know, the fruit of that labor. So let's talk about the water situation real quick. For anybody kind of wondering our water situation, like we had a couple bottles about this size. I think I had 2 in my bag about this size. I would say 32 ounces of water. So I had about 64 ounces, you know, half gallon on me to start. We have 14 miles ahead of us, and, you know, we have the filtration and we're ready to find water and filter water, but we didn't end up finding water until mile 13. And I believe I ran out of water about mile 5 or 6. So somewhere in there, we stopped about halfway through. Quick snack time, quick water break, and man, gone. Water gone. We're like, all right, you know, we'll find water. And we kind of knew that going in. Like Peyton had said, hey, like for the first 12 miles, there's no water. We didn't really take him too seriously. I'll be honest. we didn't take that comment too seriously. We're like, we'll figure it out. You know, we're a bunch of dudes, like resourceful, like, we'll figure it out. We'll find water. We'll find something. Well, we didn't. And man, it was costing us. Like we were definitely going to war. We were struggling. We had no water. We had snacks though. We had a good group of guys. We had a good time. But I just remember like making that stop at like mile 6 and coming over, and I could tell, you know, you were definitely going to war. You're definitely struggling, and just having that conversation with you of, one, bringing you back with some LMNT and some freaking mangoes. I saw the spirit, the Holy Spirit enter your body when you took a sip of that LMNT and took a bite of those mangoes. Dude, it was like I just giving you CPR, man.
Yeah, dude, for real. So like you came through, and I mean, like you say, I had a half gallon with me, and like, I don't know what I thought. I just was like, oh, it's just, you know, I'm good. And then next thing you know, I'm like, oh shit, I'm out of water.
Oh shit, we're so warm.
What? It's not bottomless? And so like, yeah, I think that really kind of, that took the mental thing to a whole nother level. It was like, oh crap, what am I going to do now? But like, that was at that point where guys started running out of water. You know, that was where you really started to see people be selfless. Was like, you know, we were all helping each other out. Like, hey, yo, try this. And like you said, you were like, kind of a little pep talk almost, like, yo, bro, you got this, like, we're gonna make it. And that was, you know, for me, like you said, it brought me back physically in the moment, but like even just the mental thing is like, you know, I was fighting that battle, but I also knew that 9 other guys out there were fighting the same battle, you know. Maybe not to the same extent, but we all had our own stuff we were going through in those moments, you know. And it gave me kind of that boost to keep going. Like, number one, it was like 6 miles back to the truck, and I'm like, number one, I knew I wasn't going back anyway. But also, even if I decided to give up on myself in that moment, I'm like, oh God, it's like, it's so many miles backwards. But then it was also, you've already come this far. Like, I wasn't even paying attention to how far we were going at that point, because I was just like trying to make it moment to moment. But then when you realize, oh, I've already done all of this, it's like, okay, another 5, 6, however many miles. I mean, you did it once, you can do it again. You know, it's just taking it piece by piece.
Yeah. And I like what you're saying about just knowing you had 9 other guys out there struggling with you. And I think that's a core piece of this community, is that struggle and that vulnerability. Like, we have so many guys, you know, on Bible studies, on calls, in the prayer requests, like in the general chat. We have guys sharing struggles every single day. And we as men, like, and I'm not saying women aren't either, but we as men, you know, we are not shy of struggle. Like, it's a lot of responsibility. It's a lot of weight to be a man in today's world, and to be the man like that steps up and leads, that steps up and be the man that your family deserves. Like we were talking about earlier, like that higher version of yourself. Like, there's a lot of weight that comes with that. There's a lot of responsibility to protect, to serve, to be strong, to be that pillar for others, and to lead. And, you know, we are just not shy of struggle. So I love what you're saying. They're just like, not only on the Appalachian Trail, we got to experience like, hey, there's 9 other guys who are out of water. There's 9 other guys who, you know, they're kind of thinking about being in some other places. Like, there's 9 other guys out here struggling with me. And we were, you know, we were hugging all the time. Like, we were coming together. We were putting our arms around each other. We were sharing water, sharing snacks. Like you said, that selflessness. And you just saw each guy come together and carry that weight together. You know, we really carried it as a group. And you know, my good friend Alex Cherry, he gave a keynote speech a couple weeks ago, and I had the privilege of being able to witness that. And he said, "Can you lift 1,000 pounds to this group?" And, you know, and we were all like, "No, we can't lift 1,000 pounds." He said, "Well, what if I gave you a second guy?" He said, "Now you only have to lift 500 pounds." He said, "What if I gave you a third guy? What if I gave you a 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th guy?" And, you know, we have a community of over 100 guys. Like, we carry this weight together, and the more you share, the more you lean into community, like you were talking about, of just getting active, getting involved, like the less weight you're going to carry. And I don't know, just seeing that practical case that you're sharing of like, man, I was out of water, I was going to war, I was thinking about 6 miles back to the car, like to just bail. Like, but no, I had 9 other guys who were going to support me, going to push me and carry that struggle with me. That's just such a powerful lesson of, and I think it's what community truly is all about. But talk to me about the glorious moment of, well, first let me share about mile 12. We come up on this creek, and we're pumped. You know, we're screaming down this mountain, down to this little valley, a little bit of a creek going on, and we're like, hell yeah, I think we've got water. And then I think Austin and Ethan were out ahead. We get up there, and man, the look of disappointment on their face. It was like this the creek had dried up. There was no water at that first one, if you can remember. And we thought we had found water. Mile 12, we were pumped. Just a massive, massive letdown. So talk to me about the emotions at that point on of like mile 12. What was your emotions of coming down, thinking we had water? People were screaming, like people were pumped, and then no water, and then eventually finding water after that. Talk to me about those emotions from your perspective.
Yeah. So, at that point is like you say, they took off ahead because we were like, oh yeah, it should be right up here. And then I think we heard them yelling, and we were like, okay, good. They found something. And then we finally get down there, and there's nothing. And we're like, I think we all just kind of were like, dejected at that point. We're like, we thought we had something, and then it was the rug was slipped right out from under us. And I think at that point, the resolve to keep going kind of took a nosedive. But we just kept walking. We're like, well, we got to find something somewhere. So we just kept going. And I mean, obviously we did eventually find it, but it took some doing.
Took a lot of doing. And then when we did find it, we ended up pumping water for about 6-7 hours that first day. From about 3:30 to 9:30, there was a guy sitting pumping water for 6 hours that first day. Like, this is truly how desperate we were. We had to pump water for 6 hours, and our life straw was getting clogged though. That was the pain in the ass. Like, the mud was getting in the filter and it was clogging it up. You had to essentially like backfill pressure up through the tube with this like plastic syringe. Like, it was this whole process to get water. But I think there's a lesson that comes with that of our, quest to get water. Of, today's world that we live in, everything is at your fingertips, right? I mean, fuck, man, I could get on Uber Eats right now and have anything I want to eat at my doorstep before we jump off of this interview. I could go to, porn.com and have anything at my fingertips as far as my eyes can see. Like, there's just so much instant gratification at the fingertips in today's world, and it's killing us. It's killing us. I think we can both agree on that. And this Appalachian Trail was the complete opposite. One, we didn't have any service, so you weren't getting on your phone. But two, like, we had to work for that fucking water. And to find the first creek, no water. Second creek, we find some water. And then it's like, oh, we got water, but guess what? You're going to have to sit here and pump it for the next 6 hours of just monotonous time with this little stream coming out. Like we had to go to work, and it just made it all the better. But I just think it's just so, a big lesson in today's world of like, we got to stay away from this like cheap dopamine. We got to stay away from that stuff. We need to do things that we have to work for, such as building your body, building your faith. Like, these are things that take a lot of time. It's a mountain that needs to be chipped away at every single day for years and years. And that's just something that I know I experienced out on the AT and wanted to share that. But speaking of just getting rewarded for our work, let's jump straight to the grand finale on day 3. So again, day 1, we find that water, we kind of post up, we make a camp, set up the tents, etc. And then, we continue on the hike. I think day 2 we hiked. So day 1 was about 14. I think day 2 was about 8 to 10 miles we hiked. And that was just straight up. That second day was straight up. It wasn't as bad as the first day because we had water, but it was definitely straight up. And then we found this hut, that we got to crash in and just post up our sleeping bags. But there's two kind of things I want to talk about. First, let's talk about the meals. Talk to me about, what we were kind of eating throughout this trip. What was your review of what we were eating? What was your experience there?
Yes, I mean, when Peyton first told us, he's like, oh, they're luxury MREs. I mean, I had kind of heard about MREs, but I was like, what's a luxury MRE? And then, he hands us these bags. I'm like, okay. But, I mean, actually, if he did them right, I felt like they were pretty good for, food out of a bag,
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, freeze drying.
Yeah. Well, and to be honest, after that first day, I think we could have been eating just about anything, and it would have been like the best thing we've ever had. I mean, but no, I mean, he definitely came through and was like, I think the first night I had It's like a chicken Alfredo, something like that. And it was on point. I don't really know how to describe it, but in that moment, it was like much needed.
What's your one bite review, 1 to 10, if you had to rate it, if you can remember back? In that moment, probably a 10.
I was gonna say at that time, yeah, it's like a 12.
Yeah, we were definitely desperate.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, these MREs, which stands for meals ready to eat, you'll see it a lot in like the military and situations like that. I think that's the most common probably place for them.
There.
And then obviously these backpacking trips and things like that. It's very prevalent in that space too. But essentially what you did was you just boiled some water, dumped it in a bag on this like freeze dried, like just hard as rock, whatever it was. I had sweet pork and rice, and then I had some a breakfast skillet. Those were my two. And you just dump the boiling water on there, let it sit for like 5 to 10, shake it a little bit, and then it was just ready to rock. The freeze dried food, absorbed that water, thawed out or whatever, and then you were ready to rock. But yeah, it was not bad for like you said, for the situation we were in. All things considered, we were eating food out of a bag. Like it wasn't bad at all. It was not good for my gut health, and I know that's something you've kind of shared. You've been struggling with is just your stomach, and man, I can agree with that. Like coming off that trail, and then I went on a lake trip like right after that, and man, my stomach, my appetite in the dirt, like my stomach has just been feeling it from that food that we were eating. But let's talk about, like I said, the grand finale. Day 3, we wake up, kind of take the morning slow a little bit, drink some coffee, eat some breakfast, and then we hike up to the top, Tinker Cliffs. Talk to me about that experience of, that, I think like a 1 mile hike to the top on day 3.
Yeah, so, and I do want to point out, and I know a lot of the guys, like, I'm still hearing about it. Like, Mitch was giving me a hard time about it the other day, or the other night on the finance call. But I do want to point out, I don't think it was day 1. I think might have been
definitely day 1. I think it might have been.
It might have been the end of towards the end of day 1, but by day 2, I was like stripped down to basically nothing, and for 2 days, like I was Tarzan basically. So that I feel like that added a whole nother layer of difficulty, but by day 3, like you were saying, we hiked straight uphill again. But by day 3, day 2 there were some battles, but by day 3 I was just ready to get after it. I was like, I don't know if it was, okay, we're almost to the end was in sight, or what it was, but I was like ready to go. And so, at that point, I think it was me and you, and I want to say Ethan and Jake. And so we start up this hill, and it's like straight uphill, not a lot of room for error at certain points. And then we get, maybe halfway up, and he's like, oh crap, there's a bear. and I didn't see it. I didn't see the one that was up in front of us, but I very much was aware of the one that was behind us. And the one in front of us takes off straight up the hill. We don't know where he's at. And we're just watching this one from behind and like, okay, let's move away slowly. I think you said it. We were convinced we were going to get to the top and there was going to be this bear. And so I think there was that fear kind of in the back of my mind the whole time, was like, okay, we're about to go toe-to-toe with Smokey Bear or something. I mean, we didn't see him. I think he went into one of the caves that we saw later, but I mean, that that just added a whole nother layer of stress to the whole thing. But yeah, no, it was, by that point, by day 3, it was just like, okay, for me mentally, it was like, okay, here's another mountain, and I heard somewhere, well, I'll get to that in a second. But by then, I fought for quite a bit of day 2 mentally, not to the extent of day 1, but, there were some mental battles that had yet to be won that were won on day 2. And by day 3, I was like, I just had this feeling like I already knew I was coming out different than when I went in. But then as we were climbing these cliffs, it was just looking forward to kind of what's the view going to be like at the top. Like, you knew if we were battling this hard, the end was going to be worth it. Like, the view from the top was going to be worth it, and it definitely was. And I know you kind of shared some of the pictures from that, and you could just see down into the valley, and you could see pretty much from one end of the valley to the other, and just, I mean, you really kind of, in that moment, were like, that was kind of our journey, was we had been in the valley for a good portion of it, and then we would reach that mountaintop, and then we would go back down into the valley, and then there we were at another mountaintop. And it just, that's life, really. We're going to hit the peaks and the valleys, but, we just got to stay the course and kind of, as you said, speaking to day 3, we came down off of that mountain, and then we had, was it like 5 or 6 miles back to the road or whatever? And, we came out there, and I was like, okay, we're almost there. And then I forgot about that last uphill with those stairs, and I was like, oh, great. Like, I knew we were so close, but there was that one more obstacle in the way. But then, like, getting to the top of that hill and being out of there, it was like, in that moment, you're like on top of the world. Especially for me, with kind of the different emotions I went through, or the whole weekend, basically. I was like, especially as we were driving out and you can kind of see the mountain range there, you're like, I just did that. And like, coming off of that, it was, and I said it going in, if I can do that, there's nothing I can't do moving forward. Like, there should be nothing holding me back from getting where I want to go, because I just hiked a mountain or 3.
Yeah. And it was, when we were driving out, we were all, I think it was, I don't remember who was in our car. It was me, Peyton, I think Austin and Ethan. And we were just looking up at that, that mountain line and just being like, we were at the top, North Mountain. Like, we were at the top of that thing that whole time, that first day, for, 14, 15 miles. And man, yeah, you truly have that belief, feeling that limitless. You have that proof of like, I just fucking conquered that, man. Like, bring it on. Like, yeah. And I know that you had said that, like, that's how I feel in this moment, is like, bring it on. Like, I just conquered that. Like bring it the fuck on. And yeah, dude, it was a powerful experience all around. I know it was life-changing for each guy. Each guy has shared their, a bit of their experience, and I'm sure they'll be sharing more as we do more interviews and get more conversations stirring. But life-changing experience through and through for each of us. And I want to share a little bit about seeing that bear, because that was a pretty funny time. So Jake was with us, and Jake's coming off double patellar tendon surgery. He's like, I don't know, not much long after his surgeries, he comes out and is hiking with us, and he's the only one with a gun. The only one with a gun. So,
and not sure how that happened.
Yeah, like I was like, oh, everyone who's driving is bringing a gun. I thought we were gonna have at least like 6 guns out there. Nope, we had 1, and it was the guy with the bum knees. And as Ethan called him, he said, "Oh, bum knees had the gun." So we roll up. We see 2 bears, one behind us, one in front of us. And what was crazy was this bear like ran up, and it was the path that we had to go up, but like I guess like the bushes and I don't know, forage, whatever it's called. Like it was so thick and so tall. Like when you were in it, you couldn't see into the bushes. So the bear just takes off into the bushes up a little bit ways up right in front of us. And we're like, and Ethan's like, he's like, I'm turning around. He was like, he told me that he's like, if you weren't there, bro, he's like, I would have turned around. And it was funny because Jake gets behind me. We all kind of bunched up, like everyone like got in behind me real tight, and we're like I'm walking, I got a stick, and I'm just kind of making noise, shaking it around, of course, as we keep hiking up. And Jake's behind me with his gun out, locked and loaded, ready to just shoot this bear. And I left my bear spray back at the rock, where we dumped our bags. But so we didn't have the bear spray. All we had was bum knees with a gun, but we ended up making it up there. It was just so funny that the edge we were on for that last, quarter mile, we were just on edge, like, oh my God, where the fuck is this bear? So yeah, that was just such a funny experience and a good layer that we got to add to that experience as a whole. But, man, talk to me just about just your overall. I know you fought a lot of, like you're saying, mental battles, won a ton of mental battles. I wouldn't even say fought, like absolutely won with the mentality, you've came out on the other side with. But just overall, like what's the kind of the biggest takeaway from that trip and that experience?
Yeah, so the biggest thing for me, obviously, and I had some time to think because, we were all at the top. And then there was a group that went out ahead of us. And then, we got back to the bottom. And I was convinced, I'm going to keep up with this first group. And then they took off. And, I knew there was people behind me. And then certain people Peyton caught up to me. And then he took off. And there was a period of time where I was out there by myself, like alone. And I don't know if it was so much reflecting at that point. It's just, okay, just keep going. Just keep getting after it. Because, like I say, by that time, I was really getting it. Like, I was, okay, let's finish strong. And I had a lot of time to think by myself. And I was just kind of looking back on, like you say, the battles that I had been through over the 3 days. And I don't know if it really hit me till I was in the car on the way back that I really understood. And like we were talking about seeing that mountain as we were driving out of there, it was like, I think that's when it hit me, was when I saw just what it was that I had actually done. Like here I was thinking, there again, those times I would get down on myself and I would be like, what am I doing out here? And then seeing that at the end was like, I just did that. Like, what's stopping me from taking on these other, mountains that are standing in front of me?
Yeah. It's powerful. And nothing, absolutely nothing. And I appreciate you jumping on and just sharing this, sharing this experience and getting vulnerable, talking about just going to war and struggling. Like, it's not easy to share that, that level of vulnerability. But 2 questions as we wrap this thing up here. One of my favorite questions to ask on these interviews is, if you could get lunch with any, let's go 3 guys. Actually, I'll give you 4. Any 4 guys out of the community, who would you get lunch with?
Oh,
no hard feelings to anybody he doesn't choose. Like,
man, oh, I would say, yeah. I mean, obviously, Jonathan Woodruff that's in here, he and I have been talking. I mean, he texts me every day. We've been going back and forth for like a month and a half. And just the level of encouragement and, well, really just the encouragement that he gives, he pours so much. And I don't think I'm the only one. I think it's everybody in the community. Just he pours out for everybody. And, I truly appreciate him. Let's see. I would say I think, like I say, I hadn't really connected with a ton of guys before this trip, but, just looking at the group of guys that we have, I would say Billy would be on that list just because he has so much to give. And like I told him while we were out there, I'm like, dude, you're just such an inspiration. And like, just such an encourager and a leader. Let's see. See, it's tough, not because there's so many great guys in this community. For sure. Let's see. Really? I would say probably Sam Burns. I really I was in it with him a lot on day one, and he kind of really walked me through a lot of stuff, but just even outside of that aspect, just the different conversations we had, and he has such a heart for other people. Like, you saw that out there. Like, it wasn't just me, it was everybody. He was like, hey, how you doing? And then probably number four would be Austin, just because I see, even if we haven't connected on the same level at this point necessarily, like, you just see he's gone through so much in his life, kind of like I have, and he's still fighting those battles, and he's getting after it every day, and he's such a light to everybody else, and he's really been an encouragement to me. Like, okay, we have this story that we can tell people, and he really helped me reconcile the faith aspect to that, and kind of broke it down for me. Just share your story, but then point them back to God. And he's really been an encouragement to me with how he's able to do that. And he kind of is helping me understand, hey, how can I use this to be a light for other people, even if they're not in that situation, but they have situations in their life. Like, this is what I've been through, and now I can add this trip is another layer of that. Just continuing to write that story. Like, there was a time when I never would have thought something like this would be possible, but then even the battles we fought while we were out there, like, you just got to keep digging, and you got to keep driving, because it's not going to be, you're not going to be in the valley forever, basically. But he's just such an encouragement to me on so many different levels. And I probably should tell him that.
That was my next follow-up, man. I was like, man, like, these are some powerful words you're sharing about these guys. I I would absolutely, challenge you after we jump off of here to send these, personalized messages out to each one of those guys to, just empower them with these gifts, because everything you've touched on, those are their God-given gifts. I truly believe that, from Billy to Sam to Austin. Who was the fourth one you chose?
Jonathan.
Yeah, Jonathan's encouragement. He was the first guy. That's why I forgot that. Yeah, dude, I would highly encourage you to drop those messages to these guys. But my final question for you, man, somebody listens to this, they love what you're saying, they love all this, they're like, oh, I want to get lunch with these guys sound like great dudes, like they're considering joining the community. Like, what would your one piece of advice be to someone who's in that seat right now that's considering joining?
I would say just take that step. If it's something you feel like would be helpful to you in your journey, just do it. Because, like, that's been a lot of my life, is going back and forth about different things. And there's so many things that I either did, but it took me longer than I wish it would have, or I didn't do. And I look back on that and say, I wish I would have done it. So if you're like on the fence, just take the leap. Because, I mean, there's, like we've said, there's so many guys in here that are just ready to love on people and help people, and so much knowledge, but also just, if it's one of those things where, like me, you're just worried about making those connections, like, people will find you if you allow yourself to be open, and if you embrace the community will embrace you.
Yeah, absolutely. And just like you were saying about getting active, kind of floating with that anonymous profile for a while, and then started getting involved. And that's what really lit the fire, and that hunger you were talking about for God, for, that higher version of yourself. But if you are someone listening to this and you're considering joining, it's only $30 a month to join. Like we've shared, we've got in-person events, calls with financial planners, nutritionists, addiction coaches, Bible studies, etc. Like, the value that is provided in this community is unreal. And it's a network of over 140 guys who share the same values that you do and are pushing in life. So it's only $30 a month to join. And if you cancel within the first month, we'll refund you in full. So I don't think you will, but if you do, join, try it out. And if you decide, hey, first 30 days, this thing just isn't for me, we'll send you your money back, no problem. And if you do want to join, in the description of this interview, there will be a link, elvtlife.com, so you can just press that and you'll get all the information. And don't hesitate to reach out to me, to Jeff, to really anybody you may see in this community. Like, I believe each guy, would organically and authentically vouch for this community and share their experience and encourage you to join. So whether you reach out to me or just a member, in Jeff, like, absolutely, reach out with any questions, anything we can, advise you on or answer, or whatever that might look like. But appreciate each and every one of you guys for listening to this and just hearing Jeff's trials and tribulations throughout the AT, and just how he's grown ever since joining Elevate. It's been amazing for me to see, just having this conversation versus when we, first connected. Like, I've seen you grow so much, dude. So I just want to say that I'm proud of you, and I'm excited for what's to come, man. Like, I truly feel this is only the beginning.
Oh, for sure. And I'm glad that you can see it, because a lot of times I look at it and, you don't always see it when you're in it, but that other people can see that growth in me. It's encouraging to me. So I appreciate that.
Absolutely, brother. But peace and love, y'all.